chances to highlight himself as a Jew, first and foremost. I remember running up to him after his talk in Israel, and I had a few quick questions for him. One is, how tall are you? It sounded like we're the same height, but I definitely can't move like him, and I think he's taller.
It's a lot thinner than you.
It happens. And then if he can teach me how to slam. But I asked him if he ever thought about, he grew up doing Shabbat, keeping Shabbat. I said, did you ever think of going all pro and just like giving that all up? And he said, that was part of who I was. I always stood for the Jewish people and for my Judaism first and foremost. That's the way I was raised. And he'll tell you some stories about his father flying in with the chicken soup and potato kugel. Make sure that stuck. But anyway, I'd like to introduce you to Tamir.
Thank you.
You ready for the lights?
Yeah.
Okay. One there and one there. Both? Yeah.
Cool.
Remember where your food is.
All right. Wow. Okay, so thank you, Rabbi, very much. Thank you, everyone that made this possible for me to be able to spend some time with you this evening. I'm very grateful and honored. Some of my friends are here too, so it's nice to see new friends and nice to see some of my old friends. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity. So my name is Tamir Goodman. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I fell in love with basketball at a very, very young age. Judaism, Israel, basketball, they were always like one thing for me, even as a young child. And we had a hoop in our backyard, and I would practice basketball every chance that I could, before school, after school. If there was snow, I would shovel the snow. I really, 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 really loved the game. And the way our court was, like, if you made a shot, you most likely get the ball back. But if you missed a shot, it would go to the neighbor's lawn. And the neighbor's lawn was lower than our lawn. So you'd basically have to chase it down a little hill and bring the ball back up to the court every time. And one time when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I missed a shot. And instead of chasing the ball the way that I always would, I just stopped on my court for a second, on our lawn, and I looked at my hands for a second, and I said, wouldn't it be really cool if I could show the world that you could play Division I college basketball and a full athletic scholarship and professional basketball without playing on Shabbat? That sounds like a really good idea to me. I want to go make that happen. And that's kind of like the vision that I had at 9 or 10 years old. And I was very lucky that there was a very, very good coach who lived in our neighborhood. So I decided that I was going to start stalking this coach and asking him to teach me how to play basketball. So I would jog in front of his house, and if he was outside, I'd say, you got some couple drills, he'd give me some drills. If he wasn't outside, I'd jog past the main window of his house, and there was a stop sign. I'd get to the stop sign, turn around, and just literally pace in front of his house until he would come outside every day, and give me the drills. And I started working with this coach all the way up until age 16. And when I was 16 years old, I got my first breakthrough. I got invited to an invitational camp. An invitational basketball camp is a camp where they invite the top high school players from around the country, but they also invite college coaches to come watch you play. So if you play well at a camp like this, you can get an athletic scholarship. That was my dream. So I was just about to leave the house, and my mother looks at me and she says, look, B'atzlacha, she's Israeli, she tells me in Hebrew, good luck, go there as a proud Jew. That was what she told me. So I went there to the camp, and I'm at registration, and I'm about to check in. It was a Sunday morning, and most of the players there are about 6'8", 6'9", 7 feet tall, a lot of muscles. They really look like basketball players, and I come in there, I have a big kippah, long tzitzit, and a cooler of kosher food that my parents had packed for me. And I'm waiting in line, and one of the players taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, hey man, this is an invitational basketball camp. You can't just show up here. Are you lost? What are you doing here? And I had my little letter that I got in the mail in my pocket, and I said, no, I've been invited to be here as well. And I got through the registration, and the first games start on Sunday, and I'm noticing very quickly that no one in this camp has given me a shot. Not the players and not the coaches. But I continued playing hard. Monday the same thing, Tuesday the same thing. By Tuesday evening, I was starting to feel a little bit nervous because the camp's only 1 week long. Here we are on Tuesday evening, and I have no interaction with any of the coaches. I'm scared that I'm going to go back to Maryland without a scholarship, and I'm going to lose my shot, you know? So I was feeling hopeless. I decided I was going to ask Hashem, I was going to ask God to give me a blessing. I said, Hashem, I'm doing everything I can in this camp to be a proud Jew. I'm surviving on Laffy Taffies. It's the only kosher food I had left. And I really needed a blessing. I said, Hashem, I want to show everyone in this camp that Jewish people can play ball too, but none of the college coaches are coming to watch me play. I'm scared I'm not going to get a scholarship. Well, my life changed that Tuesday night because after my little prayer, I went over to my coach and I said, Coach, which one of the 15 basketball courts are we playing on tonight? This campus had 15 outdoor basketball courts, and every game you played on a different court. He said, actually, Tamir, we're not playing on the outdoor courts tonight. We're playing indoors inside the main gym. It's our turn to play in the gym tonight. So I grab my sneakers and I go inside the gym, and the game starts. And as the game starts, more and more famous coaches are walking into the gym. Wake Forest, NC State, North Carolina, like all these big schools. Coaches who I grew up watching on TV are starting to come in and watch us play. And coach calls a timeout. And he's like, hey, you guys have to be ready to play. And we're like, what's going on? More and more players are coming in, more and more coaches are coming in. He's like, I just got word that it started raining outside. Every single game in this camp has been canceled because of the rain, except for our game. And we were the only team that was playing indoors that night. So basically, 15 minutes after my prayer, because of the rain, the top college coaches in America and the top high school recruits in America were forced to watch my team play the one day of the whole week that we were allowed to play inside the gym. So the game starts, and this kid comes down the court on the other team. He stops at the foul line. He shoots a jump shot. He misses it. Somehow I jump up. I grab the rebound over all these tall giants, and I'm leading a fast break to the other end of the court. And I take one dribble. I'm at the opposite foul line, and I notice that my teammate's open. But for some reason, instead of just throwing him a regular chest pass, okay, I took one dribble, and I threw the ball behind my back. From one end of the court all the way to the other end of the court. My teammate catches it, and he dunks it in, and the place goes crazy. Did you see what that Jewish kid just did? And that pass changed my life because it was the first time that they looked at me as a potential college basketball player instead of curiosity. Wednesday I played really well, Thursday I played really well, and by Friday morning I already had 7 Division I offers. Wow. And the owner of the camp came over to me and he said, Tamir, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but I'm here to invite you to play in the All-Star game tomorrow on TNT, on national TV, as one of the top players in the camp. And I said, Coach, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I'm Jewish, can't play basketball on Shabbat. My coach is coming to pick me up to take me back to Maryland in time for Shabbat, and I can't play in the All-Star game. As I was telling that to the coach, my high school coach just happened to show up right there, and this was the same coach who raised me. He didn't have the outer part of a steering wheel, okay? He only had the inner part, okay? So he pulls up, he beats the horn, and he tells the director of the camp, I gotta take this kid home, his parents are waiting for him. I get in the car, and he drives back to Maryland. And as he was driving back to Maryland, it hit me for the first time in my life that these guys were supposed to be the best players in the country, and I was blessed just as much as they were blessed. I'm gonna move forward with this dream of being a proud Jewish basketball player. And they gave me a lot of confidence going into my junior year of high school. By the 8th game of my junior year in high school, I was ranked the 25th best high school basketball player in the country, and I was getting offers in the mail every single day. One day, the University of Maryland, who at the time had the best college team in the country, maybe one of the best college basketball teams of all time, called up my yeshiva. And they said, we heard about this Jewish kid, we're coming to watch him play. And they came to watch me play, and after one game, the University of Maryland offered me a 4-year full athletic scholarship to join their basketball program. I looked at my high school coach and I said, Coach, why would I go anywhere else? Maryland's my favorite team. I'm from Maryland. I want to stay close to home. They're absolutely at the highest level. I'm going to commit to play at Maryland, but I'm going to commit on one condition. I'm going to tell the coaching staff I can't play on Shabbat. So we have a meeting with them. in this office right here. This is Coach Gary Williams, a legendary coach, assistant coach Billy Hahn, and my coach, Coach Katz, who I've been telling you about. We sit down in this meeting, they give me the scholarship. I said, I'm going to accept the scholarship right now, but I cannot play on Shabbat. Coach Gary Williams looks at me and he says, I'm going to do everything I can to accommodate you. And my life changes overnight. That picture right there, we had 700, unique media requests in that week, ABC, NBC, CBS, Sports Center, Jerry Seinfeld did a full skit about me on Saturday Night Live. Oprah called my house. Howard Stern called my house, but my parents didn't let me talk to him. And, just things started to change very, very quickly. So the next game, we got a phone call that Sports Illustrated heard about this, and they were coming to watch me play. And they came to the 99-2000. They came to my yeshiva. They were so impressed that Sports Illustrated nicknamed me the Jewish Michael Jordan, and they said they were going to put a 4-page article about me in Sports Illustrated. So they sent an NBA photographer to my house, and he asked me to start shooting around, and I'm shooting around on the same hoop where this whole journey started. But now Sports Illustrated is with me. And at some point during the photo shoot, it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, I stopped the photographer and I said, you know what? I know that millions of people are about to get this magazine. And this media attention isn't about me. This is really about the Jewish people, and this is about Israel, and I'd really like to represent that through all this media attention. So he said, what do you have in mind? I said, please come to my room. He comes down to my room, and for some reason, I just had this crazy idea that I was going to take out my tefillin and put them back on, even though I'd already prayed that morning, and take out my siddur, my prayer book. And I said, well, this is how Jewish people pray every day. Boom, he takes a picture, and I became the first person ever to be featured in Sports Illustrated, nicknamed the Jewish Michael Jordan with my tefillin on when I was only 17 years old. Until today, almost everywhere I go in the world, literally, everywhere I go, somebody will stop me on the road and say, hey, are you the Jewish Jordan? I remember seeing you in Sports Illustrated. So seemingly at this point in my life, I had everything going right. I'm going to play college basketball at Maryland. I have the best high school teammates and coach, best family, everything's going really well. But all of a sudden, towards the end of 11th grade, 2 huge challenges came my way. Number one, the Jewish school that I went to, they asked me to transfer for my senior year of high school. This was a very big challenge for me because I wanted to graduate with my friends, and now I had to find a new school just for my senior year. Why did they ask me to transfer? Because the media and the paparazzi was so relentless that it was a huge distraction to school. Say, for example, I had math one day, and then science the next day, and then English the next day. They had my entire schedule. And I'd get to school in the morning, and there were cameras all over the school. Second I got home, they were all over our backyard. I even went to shul on Friday night with my father, and they came inside the shul with the cameras. So the school's like, look, you're going to have to find a school that could better accommodate you. We love you, but you got to transfer if you want to continue on this basketball journey. So that was my first big challenge. The second big challenge that happened, I was invited to start training at the University of Maryland, and I'm playing there and practice with them every day. And coach calls me into the office one day, and he's like, look, Tamir, you can stay and play at the University of Maryland. You have a scholarship, but we've decided if you're going to stay and play, based on how we see things moving forward, you're going to have to start to play on Saturday. And I said, Coach, thank you so much for the opportunity. I love this program, but for Jewish people, Shabbat is more important than basketball. And I gave him back the most sought-after basketball scholarship in the country. The University of Maryland went on to win the national championship. I would have been on that team. So now, going into my senior year, I have no senior year of high school. I have no scholarship. All the other teams that were recruiting me filled up their roster spots with other players. So all I had left was Shabbat. And to me, that was the most important thing. First thing, where am I going to graduate high school? I cannot find a school that could accommodate me. Until one day I get a phone call from a Christian priest. And this Christian priest told me that he was a principal of a predominantly African-American Christian school outside of Washington, D.C., only an hour away from my house. And he wanted me to come graduate from his school. So I said, thank you for thinking of me, but I'm an observant Jew. What in the world am I going to do in a Christian school? So he said, listen, our gym seats 5,000 people. We play at a much higher level, and we're very, very well accustomed to dealing with the media, so you won't have that issue. We'll have a rabbi come in and study with you every single day, And because we're Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we don't play basketball on Shabbat either. So most Christians, their Shabbat is on Sunday. Seventh-day Adventist Christians, they celebrate Shabbat like us, and they don't play basketball on Shabbat. So I said, you know what? This sounds like a great idea. Let's go for it. So I leave an all-boys yeshiva, and I transfer to a Christian school. Orthodox Jew transfers to Christian academy. So I walk into school on the first day. I'm the only Jewish kid in the entire school. I have a big kippah on, long tzitzit, kosher food, and I'm standing in front of a massive cross. And I couldn't understand one thing. Why did Hashem send me to a Christian school? Why? And the day that it hit me the most was on our first home game. I'm in layup lines, and all of a sudden, Coach Katz walks into the gym, and when I saw him, I started crying. I'm like, why am I playing for a Christian school? I wanted to be playing for my coach with my friends back at the Jewish school, so I started crying on his shoulder before the game. And he said, Tamir, now's not the right time to cry. You got to pick yourself up, go play the game. We'll talk about this later. So I go back, and I pick myself up, and I played, and I played, and I played, and I played, and I ended up having a really good season at the Christian school. So much so that at the end of my senior year of high school, I got a phone call from a very, very prestigious all-star game called the Capital Classic All-Star Game. It features the top 24 high school seniors in America. So Michael Jordan, he played in the game when he was a senior. Magic Johnson, Patrick Ewing, Grant Hill, Moses Malone, the greatest players of all time participated in this prestigious game in Washington, D.C. And I became the first Jewish person to ever get invited to play in this game. So for a week straight before the game, we got to train with the top seniors in the country. And I loved every minute practicing with these guys who are going to be future NBA players. And after the week of training, the big day comes. It was the day of the game. It was on the floor of the Washington Wizards, my local NBA team. So we're coming on for the morning practice before the game, and the Wizards are coming off. Juwan Howard, Chris Webber, and they had an all-star point guard. His name was Rod Strickland. And I'm coming on the court, and Rod Strickland comes over to me, and he says, hey, are you that Jewish kid that I read about in the paper? I said, maybe. Why? He said, because I bought a ticket. I'm sitting on the floor tonight to watch you play. Okay, he was an NBA all-star point guard. So that made me feel a little bit nervous. I go through the rest of the practice. We put in hands, and coach is like, good news. We're like, what's up? He's like, I just got word. The game sold out tonight. They're expecting 18,000 people. And Michael Jordan's coming as well. So at this point, I had to do what every Jewish boy does when they're nervous. I call my mom. And I said, Ima, I need your help badly tonight because I just saw Rod Strickland. She's like, who's Rod Strickland? I'm like, look, she doesn't know anything about basketball. She would never come watch me play because she was always scared that I was going to get hurt. My father, of blessed memory, loved basketball. He would come to every practice if he could. Forget about every game, right? So I said, I need your help. Can you please come watch me play tonight? I need your blessing. So she said she'll come to the game. So she comes to the game, and the game's just about to start, and I see Coach Katz, who raised me, on the sideline, and I run right over to him and I said, Coach, do you have any last-second tips before I play in this game here tonight? He's like, yeah, don't take any extra dribbles. They're so quick. Just think pass first tonight. I said, thank you. The game starts, and my mother, she goes to where my father's sitting, and she starts asking him a million questions, and my father's focused on the game. Is Tamir doing good? Is Tamir doing bad? Are they winning? Are they losing? Why is this? Why is that? And my dad's like, please, Ima, I can't answer your questions right now. Let me watch the game, and I'll answer your questions later. So she's like, oh, he must not be playing well. She walks to the other side. She starts asking my brothers, I'm one of 5 boys, all these questions. And my brother's same response, Ima, we want to watch the game. We'll answer your questions later. So she's like, okay, he's definitely not doing well. She takes out her Sefer Tehillim, her Psalms, and she starts praying, and she decides she can't take it. She's going to walk out of the arena. And as she's walking to the top of the steps, the usher puts 2 and 2 together, and he says, are you Mrs. Goodman? She said, yeah, why? He's like, look, don't go anywhere. Your son's playing really well. There's an open seat next to me. You could just sit here until the end of the game. So that's where my mom sat. And at the end of the game, they made an announcement on the loudspeaker that this year's most valuable player tied Jason Kidd's assist record, and his name is Tamir Goodman. I ended up winning the most valuable player against the best players in the marathon. I did it with my kippah on, and that's why Hashem sent me to the Christian school. I would have never been able to make this happen if I wouldn't have gone to the Christian school, because I would never got invited to play in this game. And so if you look in the history books of this game, Magic, Michael, Patrick, you go all the way down to my year, I was named the most valuable player. But I still didn't have a college because I'd given my scholarship back to the University of Maryland. Where was I going to play college basketball? Well, I got a phone call from Towson University. It's a Division I school in Baltimore. And the coach calls me up and he's like, hey, I'm not Jewish. Nobody on the team is Jewish. But these guys right here, they asked me to come recruit you. Okay? They actually respect that you didn't play on your holy day and you could have played at Maryland. Can we learn more about your religion? I said, sure. They came over our house, the head coach and assistant coach, and my father comes out of the kitchen with a big Jewish calendar, you know, the Rosh Hashanah calendar that you get at the beginning of the year, and he starts going over all the Jewish dates with these two non-Jewish Division I coaches in 5 minutes. Rosh Hashanah falls out on this and this day and this time, can't play. Coach makes an X. Yom Kippur, can't play. Shabbat, can't play. And they go over an entire schedule. My coach puts together a proposal and he goes to the head of our conference and the head of the NCAA and say, I got a question. Is there any way you can change the entire schedule, flights, TV contracts, hotel reservations, game scheduling, all for one incoming Division I athlete that's never even played a game? And the NCAA agreed, and they changed the entire schedule for me, and I was able to become the first observant Jew to play Division I basketball on a full athletic scholarship without having to play on Shabbat or any Jewish holidays. So this article right here is from ESPN magazine. It says answered prayer, and it really, really was a miracle. So I made sure on the first day of college to go to my coach's office and thank him personally. I gave him a huge hug and I said, Coach, thank you for changing the schedule. This was supposed to be impossible, and here I am. You allowed me to live out my dream. He looks at me and he says, perfect timing. I want you to meet someone. Look on the other side of his office, and I see a 6'10" basketball player. And coach says, Tamir, I want you to meet Muhammad. I said, nice to meet you, Muhammad. He says, you know, I was thinking, you guys are both incoming freshmen. You're both on the basketball team. Tamir, you're a Jew. Muhammad, you're a Muslim. I thought you guys would be perfect roommates together. So in 2 years, I went from an all-boys yeshiva to graduating from predominantly African-American Christian school to now rooming with Muhammad, who tells me his mom is from Lebanon. So we start the first month together on campus with intense training. After the month straight of training, you have a big celebration on campus called Midnight Madness. It's at 12 o'clock before the first official practice, where the fans can meet the new team for the first time. We put on our uniforms and we meet at the gym at midnight. Very exciting. However, this Midnight Madness for me came out on a Friday night, and it was also Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot, where we have to eat inside the sukkah. So my parents bring me the food. We got permission to build the sukkah. Everything's perfect. But I'm in my room with Muhammad on the 15th floor, and I forgot about one thing. We can't carry on Friday night. Jewish people don't carry on Shabbat unless there's something called an Eruv, which allows us to carry. So I had the kosher food and I had the sukkah, but there was no Eruv. And I'm stuck on the 15th floor, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to get my food into the sukkah on Friday night? I can't carry it. So I'm stuck, and I'm looking out the window. My bed was closer to the window. Muhammad comes over to me and says, why do you keep looking out the window? I said, Muhammad, do you see that broken down teepee on the other side of campus? He said, yeah, what is that? I said, look, I got to eat my food in the sukkah tonight, but there's no Eruv, so I can't carry it. I'm telling this to a Muslim guy. He says, don't worry about it. I'm going to carry the food for you. So he takes a tray with some gefilte fish and some grape juice and some challah, and we're walking across campus. We're freshmen. Into the sukkah. He comes into the sukkah like this. He can't fit. And he puts the food on the table. I said, Muhammad, do you want to eat in the sukkah with me here tonight? He says, no, this is crazy. I'm going over to Midnight Madness. I said, all right, I'll meet you over there. So I eat real quick and I go over to Midnight Madness. The arena is slam packed, and the players come out one by one in their new uniform, and they get to give a shout out in the microphone. I'm the greatest player you ever brought to Towson. I'm going to average 30 points a game, etc., etc., etc. I'm the last player who they introduced. Meet our new freshman point guard, Tamir Goodman. I come out to half court and I'm wearing a button-down shirt and pants. It's Friday night. I didn't put on the uniform. And the athletic director says, what do you have to say about the upcoming season? Tries to hand me the microphone. I don't touch the microphone. I move away and I whisper into his ear. I say, Dr. Edwards, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I can't talk on the microphone tonight because I'm Jewish and it's Shabbat, and we don't really talk on microphones on Friday night. So he tells all the fans, this is the first time they've ever met the team. Actually, not like the rest of the players on this team, we're not going to hear from Tamir Goodman tonight because he's a Jew, and it's Friday night, it's Shabbat, and they don't talk on the microphone on Friday night. I'm like, great, I'm standing there at half court looking at everybody, and all of a sudden one guy gets up, He's like, yeah, man, Shabbat. You don't need to talk in the microphone. We respect that. Don't talk in the microphone. All of a sudden, next thing you know, I get a huge standing ovation. Yeah, man, Shabbat. Don't talk in the microphone. We got it. I'm like, wow, I got to the right school. This support is unbelievable. So the season finally starts, and the third game of the season, we're on the road. We're in Philadelphia. Muhammad and I are just about to fall asleep. We hear a knock on our hotel room. I say to Muhammad, I'll see who's at the door. I go look in the door, in the little hole, and I see it's our head coach. We're so scared of our head coach, okay? So I said, Muhammad, you know what? I got this one. I'll see what coach wants. I open up the door, and he says, Goodman, step into the hallway. I step into the hallway. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, look, I really want you to be ready to play tomorrow. And I say, why? I mean, I always try to be ready to play. What's going on? He said, we're playing against Villanova, one of the best teams in the country. The game's on ESPN, and you're starting. I'm 18 years old. He's like, we're just better with you on the floor. So I said, all right, coach, have a good night. Close the door. Muhammad's like, what was all that about? I'm like, Muhammad, we're playing against Nova tomorrow. The game's on ESPN. I'm starting, and I have no idea how to play basketball. I am so nervous. They have a senior point guard. I'm a freshman point guard. They're known for their press. How am I going to get the ball up the floor? Can't sleep the whole night. We get to Villanova the next day. 3 hours before the game, we're at shoot-around. Just the players. Shoot-around. And I'm so nervous I can't even catch the ball at shoot-around. All of a sudden, I look up in the stands at Villanova, and I see a Jewish lady, okay? And she's next to her probably 10, 11-year-old son, Jewish boy. And I get eye contact with them, and I'm looking at this Jewish boy, and he sees me looking at him. And all of a sudden, he reaches into his bag, and he takes out a sign, a homemade sign, at Villanova, and he takes out a marker, and he starts writing slowly in Hebrew letters at Villanova, Bet, Resh, and he spells out in Hebrew, Bruchim Abayim le Tamir Goodman. He writes, welcome, Tamir Goodman, but he writes it in the Hebrew letters. And I said to myself, wow, whoever saw Hebrew letters at Villanova? This is so cool. But every second I saw the letters, I wasn't nervous anymore, and they made me feel at home. I ended up having 13 points and 6 assists against Nova. Coach comes over to me after the game. He says, we haven't had a player start here in over 11 years. I was a freshman. Congratulations, you're the first one in 11 seasons. And I became the starter as a freshman in Division I basketball, all because of the Hebrew letters that night. So I was feeling really good. School was going really well. Muhammad was becoming more and more Jewish every day. And the respect that my teammates gave me was unbelievable. I mean, anything that had to do with Judaism, they were unbelievable. I mean, one time there was a loose ball on the floor, which means nobody has possession, and we're playing against Boston, and I dive on the ball, and somebody from other team also, he was trying to get the ball, fighting for the ball, he slams my head into the floor. But when I get up, I'm noticing that there's a huge standing ovation, as if someone just hit a three-pointer. I'm thinking to myself, why is there a standing ovation if this guy slammed my head into the floor? A couple days later, I watched the game tape, and I noticed something very special with my dear friend Sam Sutton. When I fell at half court, I didn't realize it because I hit my head so hard that my kippah had fallen off. And my kippah was still on the court, and my teammates carried me off the floor. I was at the team doctor, was fixing the cut over my eye, but my kippah was still at half court. So Sam Sutton thought to himself, you know what? I'm watching this on the tape. I've never seen Tamir without his kippah on. This can't be. And in the middle of a Division I game, non-Jewish athlete runs all the way over to half court, picks up my kippah for me, comes all the way over to the sideline, slams it back on my head, and goes out and continues to play. That's why they gave a standing ovation. So you can imagine how respectful these guys were, and especially Muhammad. I came into my room on Friday night. If he was listening to music, he would lower the music. If he was watching TV, he would lower the TV. And I never even told him that I don't watch TV on Friday. Just so respectful. But there was only one thing in Judaism that was very hard for Muhammad, and I learned about this also at an away game. My parents would meet me in the airport in the middle of the night and restock me with kosher food, because the team was always eating in non-kosher restaurants, and it just wasn't possible unless the support of my parents. So one day after the game, I noticed that my parents packed me our very famous healthy post-game meal, chocolate rugelach. And I'm eating the chocolate rugelach, and Muhammad says to me, he says, hey, what is it? You know, what are you eating there? I said, Muhammad, this is for Jewish people. It's a famous Jewish traditional snack. You could have one. I'll be right back. I'm going to call my parents. I go down to the lobby of the hotel. I call my parents. I tell them we're flying home tomorrow. Everything is great. Come back to the room, and Muhammad is passed out, sleeping on the bed. He hangs over the bed. He's so long, with an empty bag of rugelach next to his face. The next morning, Coach wakes us up, and he's like, hey, we gotta get going, get out of bed. And Muhammad can't get out of bed. I said, Muhammad, what's wrong? He says, my stomach is killing me. What did you give me to eat last night? I said, Muhammad, this is for Jewish people. I told you to eat one rugula. Why did you eat the whole bag? He said, don't ever give me that stuff again. So that was the only real big challenge that he had with Judaism. The rest of the time, they were all very supportive and respectful. So winter break starts, and winter break is very long in college. It's 6 weeks. The coaches really, really pound the basketball during winter break because there's no homework, there's no studying, and we're just traveling around the world playing basketball. And our next stop is at LSU, Louisiana State University, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And we arrive in Baton Rouge, and I'm sitting on my cooler of kosher food, and I'm thinking to myself, I haven't even seen a Jewish person in over a week. And one of my teammates comes over to me, taps me on the shoulder, and he says, your people are inside. Which basically means he was trying to say he saw a Jewish person inside the airport. And this guy's name was Kerry Augustus. And I said, Kerry, there's no Jewish people in Baton Rouge. Please, I'm not in the mood for these jokes right now. So he comes back 5 minutes later and he taps me on the shoulder again. And he says, I'm telling you, your people are inside the airport. I said, Kerry, stop. There's no Jewish people in Baton Rouge. Comes out a third time. He's like, I'm telling you. I said, all right, let me see what's going on. I go inside the airport, and he was right. There was a rabbi there. And the rabbi was wearing a long black coat. And I haven't seen a Jewish person in over a week. I jump up and I give the rabbi a bear hug. I'm like, Rabbi, I am so happy to see you. He says, perfect timing. I just got in from New York. He opens up his jacket like Superman, and he takes out of his inner pocket a kosher cream cheese sandwich. I'll never forget. He's like, take this kosher sandwich. I just landed from New York. I said, thank you, Rabbi. And I turned around and he was gone. It was like Eliyahu Navi. I never saw that rabbi again. So we get to LSU, and it's very, very intimidating there. It's the most non-Jewish environment I've ever been in my life. They're called the LSU Tigers, okay? That's their mascot name. Well, they have a real tiger there that people come to worship before the games. I don't know if anyone here ever been to LSU. And they're raising money to build them a bigger cage, and then they take you into the museum and they show you all the players that played there. Shaquille O'Neal, Pistol Pete. Like, this is a major, school that we're about to play against. And we finally get in, and the game starts, and the fans are all over me. The student section, which is usually the rowdiest, they start a chant that sounds like this. Where did number 22 get that hat from? And the other students would say, the rabbi, the rabbi. And they're singing this about my kippah the whole game. Well, they destroyed us. They were very good. I didn't say anything to the referee. I didn't say anything to them. I just tried to play my game. And at the end of the game, coach was like, take a shower, put on your travel suit. We're going to get out of here. Take a shower, put on my travel suit. And as I'm leaving the arena to get on our bus, I noticed that those same fans are there waiting by my team's bus. I'm like, what do these guys want, I'm going to just sprint on the bus. I don't even want to talk to them. I'm going to stay above it. So I try to sprint on the bus, and they close off the door of the bus. They don't even let me get on my own bus. So I was nervous for a couple seconds. I'm like, come on, guys, what's going on here tonight? And the guy who was leading the whole chant shocked me. He just took out his hand like this, and he said, hey, on behalf of all of us right here, we just want to shake your hand. I'm thinking to myself, why? You guys were like laughing at me the whole night. He says, because we were laughing on you the whole night, and I'll never forget what he said, and you didn't take that hat off your head, we just want to congratulate you for that. And one by one, they shook my hand. And I got back on the bus. I'm like, wow, LSU beat Towson tonight, but for the Jewish people, I think we got a W tonight. We got to win tonight. Because if another kid wants to play here one day with his kippah on, I don't think they would do that to him. So things were really moving forward, and we finally were trying to get into March Madness. Everybody knows the way it works. You have to win your conference championship. If you win, you advance. If you lose, season's over, right? Unfortunately, the biggest game of my life came out on a Friday night, and I had made an announcement that I wasn't going to play. This right here, headline, Jewish Jordan to sit out. This was the Associated Press. This article was picked up in almost every newspaper in America. This is USA Today. Religious observance sideline Towson starter. Orthodox hooper skips big game for Shabbat. Goodman to miss first game due to Shabbat because during the regular season, my coach changed the schedule. This is postseason. He couldn't change the schedule. I made the announcement. Biggest game of my life, I can't play. So here's the scenario. If my team would win without me on Friday night, because I can't play, they'd advance. I could play the second half on Saturday night because Shabbat was over at halftime. If they would lose on Friday night, the season was over. So I found out that the team hotel was a 20-minute bus ride away from the arena. And I did a little bit of research and I found out that there was a hotel right across the street from the arena. So I asked my coach for an exception. I said, Coach, can I please book a room that's right across the street at this hotel instead of the 20-minute drive away? That way, if the fans look happy on Friday night without turning on the TV, I know we won, I can play the second half on Saturday night. If the fans look sad, I know we lost, somehow I'll get back to Maryland. I'll find a ride on Saturday night. Can I book the hotel? He says, go for it. I booked the hotel and then I called my father, blessed memory, and I told him what happened. And my father immediately said, you know what? I'm going to shut my office down. I'm going to fly out there. We're going to have Shabbat together. So Friday afternoon, I'm waiting at the hotel, waiting every cab that goes by. I'm like, hoping it's my dad. Finally, a cab stops in front of the hotel. My father comes out, brings all the kosher food. We go into our room. Shabbat's about to start. We do our little prayer, and we're just about to make Kiddush, and we hear a knock on the door on Friday night of the hotel room at the famous tournament. And I said to my father, oh my God, there's a Jewish person that saw us. Someone's going to come celebrate Shabbat with us. We're going to make history at the tournament. And I went to open up the door, and I was completely shocked to see that it wasn't another Jewish person trying to celebrate Shabbat with us. It was my entire team. And they walked into our room, and they said, Tamir, we just want to let you know, we just won the game for you. We won the game for Shabbat. We respect so much that you didn't play in the biggest game of your life. This one is for you. And that was the most special sports moment that ever happened to me. Saturday night, I ran across the street to the arena in the second half, and as I'm coming out, I hear ESPN radio saying, the Jewish kid's here. He couldn't play in the first half. He actually can't play until there's 3 stars outside. But now that there's 3 stars outside, he can play in the second half. And I got a chance to play in the second half. Unfortunately, we lost, but I was awarded the Coach's Award for best performance on and off the court. And they told me they were going to build a team around me going into my sophomore year. I went home for spring break as the happiest freshman in all of America.
Who did you play in the game that you didn't win?
We lost to Delaware. So spring break, my phone rings and it's my head coach. And I just knew something was wrong right away because coach would never call me on spring break unless something was wrong. He's like, hey, Tamir, got some really bad news. I said, what's going on, coach? He's like, there's a press conference tomorrow and I don't want you to find out in the media. I'm going to tell you personally that I've just been fired. Our entire staff has been fired. We don't know why. We had a great year, but I know the coach who's replacing me. He's not going to accommodate you the way that I've accommodated you with religion. I suggest you transfer out of Towson University. And I'm crying on the phone. I can't believe it. The Christian school, Maryland, everything that I've gone through in my life, everything was finally perfect, and now it's gone with coach being fired. But I still can't leave Towson. They did so much to help me. It would be rude if I transferred, and plus I'd have to sit out for a year, which is called a red shirt. I'm going to stay at Towson. But unfortunately, the new coach comes in, and he made it absolutely impossible for me to stay at Towson University. He was very verbally abusive. He was saying the scariest things to me. He stripped me away of all my playing time in practice and during games. I called a meeting with him. He showed up an hour and a half late. I called a meeting with him and the athletic director, and I said to the athletic director, Dr. Edwards, I don't want to talk bad about coach behind his back, so I brought him to this meeting, but I don't think he wants me here, and I'm feeling very scared. The athletic director puts his hand on my hand, and he says, Tamir, I can assure you everything's going to be fine. Well, the next game, after the game, in the locker room, this new coach took a metal stool and he tried to slam it over my head. Thank God I moved back and it didn't hit my head. He kicked it into my leg, cut my leg. I was just blessed that there was 2 police officers that happened to be outside the locker room. They busted into the locker room. They saved me and they took me to the police station, and I never played another game of college basketball again. I was absolutely broken, devastated, and down. I left campus, I left Muhammad, and I moved back home. The athletic director called me up. He's like, sorry this happened to you. You have still an athletic scholarship. You can just come to class every day. If you don't want to be part of the team, we understand that. So that's what I did. I just finished out my sophomore year, but I quit basketball. I was absolutely broken. And then one day I woke up and I thought to myself, everybody in this world has a unique mission that God creates us and recreates us every second for. I'm like, if I stop playing basketball because of this new coach, I'm basically not alive. You know, why am I waking up in the morning if I'm not playing ball? I was brought to this world to do good things through basketball, and I'm not doing that anymore. I can't let this new coach take me away from my mission in life. That didn't make sense to me anymore. And somehow I got the courage to come back better than ever. And I started training, and I get a phone call from Coach David Blatt, who was a very famous Israeli coach. He was the first Israeli coach to coach in the NBA. He coached LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to the finals a couple years ago. And he said, we've been reading about you here in Israel. what do you think about becoming a professional player in Israel? And I said, Coach, nothing would make me happier. He said, great. Meet me at Chelsea Piers in New York. I'm going to fly from Israel. I'm going to give you a tryout. And after one hour tryout with this world famous coach, Coach David Blatt, I was lucky enough to sign a 3-year contract to play professional basketball in Israel. I get to Israel. I don't even have to go through security, okay? Like, it is just, I'm meeting with the president and everybody in the Knesset and the newspapers and the media. I went to the hotel, there was thousands of people. It was just, I can't even imagine what I experienced. The great first 3 weeks, we had 3 NBA guys on our team, best team in Israel, best team in Europe, probably the greatest team ever assembled outside of the NBA. But all of a sudden my agent calls me up, I'm 20 years old, and he says, Tamir, I'm very sorry to let you know you've just been traded. 3 weeks into the season, I lost the biggest contract of my life, and I went to play for another professional team in Israel outside of Ramat Gan. But I said to myself, you know what, I'm not going to be down, I'm going to work with what I have instead of work with what I don't have. As soon as I moved to this new team, I get a phone call from National Service. There's a hospital right outside of Ramat Gan called Tel HaShomer, a very famous hospital in Israel. And there was kids that were hurt and sick and wounded in terrorist attacks that wanted to meet me. So they asked National Service to reach out to me and say, hey, can you bring that American basketball player to the hospital to visit us? We read about him in the paper, we want to meet him. I said, sure, I'll come to the hospital. One of the volunteers says, well, do you mind if I bring my friend along? I said, no. She brings her friend along, and her friend says to me, you know, we're very similar, we're both 20 years old. I also just made Aliyah because I'm here studying now and volunteering. I had all these scholarship opportunities, athletic scholarship opportunities to compete at Division I level in America, but the coaches wanted me to compete on Shabbat. So rather than competing on Shabbat, I gave those scholarships back and I moved to Israel. And I said, wow, we have the same story. Is there any way that we could get married? And she said, yes. And 2 weeks later we got engaged, and thank God now we have 5 kids. And I would have never met my wife if I wouldn't have lost the biggest contract of my life. So sometimes in life, you can think like, wow, everything is crashing down, going the wrong direction, but maybe our biggest blessing is just waiting right there for us. And that's what happened with me and meeting my wife. After we got married, I got to fulfill my second dream. My first one was to be a pro player. My second one was to serve in the IDF. My Savta, who just passed away, was a Holocaust survivor. She was my Savta, my grandmother. She just passed away. She was 98, but she was 4 years in the camps, and she raised me, and I always knew that I wanted to honor her and serving in the IDF. I was actually awarded Chayal Mitztayen. I was awarded Outstanding Soldier in my unit, specializing in Armor Personnel Carrier unit, and this is the headline in the paper in Israel: Michael Jordan Shel Tzahal. And why do I have my basketball clothes? Because every day I was allowed to train basketball for 2 hours a day. So it was a great honor for me to serve in the IDF and also have some success there as a soldier, thank God. But ultimately I wanted to play basketball again. And that's what I started doing. But unfortunately from 2004 until 2009, every year I did get a contract, but also every year my body sustained a major injury. And after 5 years of surgeries and rehab, I was forced to retire at age 27. And when I retired, it was in every major news media outlet. But I decided that, you know what, even though I can't play the sport I love the most, I'm going to flip this whole experience around and turn it into something positive. My injury, losing my greatest passion in this world, not being able to play anymore, actually made me a better person. It made me more sensitive to struggle, and it made me more creative. And I decided I was going to move forward instead of being sad. The first thing that I did is I launched and invented and patented a line of compression fit tzitzit. Why? Because when I played with my tzitzit, but it wasn't always comfortable and they would get ruined. So I said, when I'm done playing, I'm going to make special tzitzit that are more conducive for athletes. So I invented the first ever compression fit high performance tzitzit. Moisture wicking, odor wicking, and they compress your body to give you more range of motion. And as soon as I got them to market, the war broke out in Gaza. So I said, I gotta get our soldiers these tzitzit, because I know the army issued tzitzit, they're nowhere near the ones that I've invented. So we invest so much money in the best tanks and the best weaponry. Well, let's get our soldiers the best spiritual armor we can. And till today, I'm very happy to say that we raise the money and we give our soldiers these special tzitzit, which they're in high demand. The soldiers really love them. Would have never been able to think about that without my injury. Also, I started doing a lot of basketball camps and clinics. I became much more sensitive to struggle and challenges that kids might go through in their life. So I started a basketball camp in Jerusalem. till today, every single year in July, I host Jewish players from around the world. We had kids this summer from Vienna, Germany, Australia, all across America, a big group of kids from Florida that come train with me every year in Jerusalem at this basketball camp. Every week we bring a different NBA coach, and it's Jerusalem basketball and changing these kids' lives, empowering them through basketball. Would have never been able to do it if it wasn't for my knee injury, because it taught me to be a much better coach. My wife and I wrote this book, which is published. You could get it on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com, anything. And ultimately, I also invented this training aid called Zone 190. It's a multi-angled pitchback. I only thought of that after I blew my knee out. And I'm happy to say it's now being used by many NBA teams. Most recently, which was very exciting for me, was the first time I built a prototype in our garage. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had this idea and my hands were bleeding and I was working through the night on this concept, developing it. My wife comes into the garage, she sees my hands bleeding, she's like, what is going on? And I said, I have this idea for basketball and I think the San Antonio Spurs are gonna buy it one day. It just really goes with their offensive sets. Well, not that long ago, I'm in Jerusalem and I get a phone call in the middle of the night and it just says San Antonio on it. So I didn't pick it up, I didn't know what it was, but I listened to the voicemail in the morning. It was the coach of San Antonio Spurs. We want to buy your product, we want to know if you can come out to San Antonio and train our staff on it. And I was able to do that and spend 40 minutes on the court with San Antonio Spurs, who are the newest NBA team to use my product. So on a daily basis, I live in Jerusalem with my wife and 5 kids. I'm the head of business development for Uphold Jerusalem. Amari Stoudemire, who's from Florida, has been playing with us the last couple of years. And I do a lot of coaching, a lot of consulting for a lot of startups, a huge amount of chesed, philanthropic charity initiatives I'm involved in, and also helping the startup world, the sports startup tech world in Israel. So I guess my main message is that Judaism, some people may think it's like a schlep, it's like takes you away from all your blessings in life, but what I've learned is that Judaism has just helped me fulfill my dreams, but do it in a more happy and meaningful way. And that's what this center is about. That's what the rabbi is about, and his wife, and all the rabbis here. So they're here for you. Please spend as much time as you can with them. If I could ever help you with anything in my life, my email is Tamir@TamirGoodman.com. Just let me know if I can help with anything. And I wish you, everybody here, Shana Tova Mutzlachat. You should have a good year with only blessings and smiles, and everyone should be very, very, very successful in reaching your own unique mission in bettering this world through your own unique talents and blessings. Thank you very, very much.
We're going to give them about 5 minutes of questions if anyone has a question for Tamir.
Yeah.
When's the movie coming out?
So in the next couple weeks, probably there's going to be a major, I can't say who, but there's a major sports media outlet. I'll make sure when it comes out, the rabbi, I'll send it to you and you can pass it on to everyone. It should be coming out in the next few weeks. That's going to be a mini documentary, and the bigger documentary is coming out really soon as well. We've had really, really great interest from big production companies, and we're trying to work it all out now.
Did you ever pursue the reason why the coach treated you that way? And no.
I never asked him, and I've never seen him since. But I could say something really crazy, is that not long ago, Towson University, it's all the coaching staff and everything, they bought his own 190. So the team, the coaching staff there has no idea about the history. They're all, so the coach is like, hey, let me show you the gym, let me show you the locker room. I'm like, no thanks, coach, I never want to see that locker room again. I didn't even tell him the whole story, but it was just like crazy how they ended up buying his own 190.
I couldn't figure out when I saw you in Israel and the camp was at the finest gym I've ever seen, let alone in Israel. I mean, anywhere.
Yeah.
It's at the YMCA in Gilcom. And I'm thinking to myself, how does this work? And now I learned. You spent a year at the Catholic school.
Yeah, and I still have a very, very strong connection with the Christian community. One of my teammates was just named the general manager of an NBA team. There's a lot of connections that I'm still involved with. A lot of those guys went on to play professionally too, so it was a very, very big blessing for me. And I'm glad that my parents gave me the unconditional support, because I know that not everybody in the community liked that decision. I know that my mom told me she would go to the kosher food market and they would say to her, how dare you send your son to a Christian school? But my parents always had my best interest, and I thank them for that, and it ended up being a very big blessing. So, yeah. Anything else?
Fascinating life.
Yeah, thank you. A couple announcements from the rabbi, and then there's food.
Okay, there's still a little sushi there, danishes and fruit there. If you want to schmooze with him or take a picture, he's going to be here for a few more minutes. Every Monday night, just so you guys know, every Monday night we've got a class here. Psychology and Personal Growth through the Torah 745. And then again, once a month we have a speaker. You see the flyers on your seats for the upcoming one in a month from now. If you know anyone who wants a fun Hebrew school, usually an oxymoron, we have a fun Hebrew school run by Rabbi Richmond, and we're actually starting a toddler program after the holidays as well. So that's Sunday mornings. You can come our way. We have a Shabbat explanatory service and a High Holidays explanatory service in English. You'll actually understand the services. 9 to 11 at Grandview. You can go online. Everything's on the handout over here. Okay. Have a great evening, guys.